to Miss Cindy's Kitchen. I'm going to show you how to make some really tall, fluffy buttermilk biscuits. Because I've had a lot of people tell me that they have a hard time finding biscuit recipes that have fluffy biscuits. Whereas some of them just come out like flat hockey pucks, and I don't find that very appetizing. So I looked and looked until I found a recipe that actually had a significant difference in the composition of the recipe and the way you prepare it that yields really tall biscuits. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share to your friends. And the two ingredients to this that may differ from other biscuit recipes that you're familiar with are melted butter and frozen buttermilk. The buttermilk has to freeze for 10 minutes, and basically you combine the butter with the buttermilk, and that creates little globules in it that help the biscuit rise and be flaky. So that's the big difference with this recipe versus other ones I've tried. And I found this to be a ridiculously easy buttermilk biscuit, which is what the recipe is called, from the sucre farine. I'll try to put a link on the description, but it is the fluffiest biscuits and the tallest biscuits I've seen that are homemade and naturally made. So anyway, I've got 2 cups of regular flour here in the bowl, and to that I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar, a little extra won't hurt. So we got a tablespoon of sugar, a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And again, I keep this in a canister because it's great for baking as well as cleaning. And plus it keeps it airtight, which helps it not to get clumpy. And then we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Baking powder is what really helps give biscuits their rise. So that's 1 and 2. And then we have 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And I don't have a 3/4 out right now, so I'm going to use a teaspoon and just not fill it up all the way. Well, easier said than done. So there's the salt, and I'm going to stir the ingredients to, again, this is 2 cups flour, a half a teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to combine the buttermilk with the butter. So I'm going to get that out of the freezer. It's been chilling. I think it needs a couple more minutes. So why don't we pause for just a sec and we'll come back, because we have to have the buttermilk at a certain temp before it'll do the right things. And now the buttermilk has had its full 10 minutes, and as you can see, it's getting kind of a frozen skin on the top. So that's that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to pour this into the melted butter, because I should have used a larger container for the buttermilk, but for now I'm going to pour it into the melted butter. And then I can show you all what it looks like as those globules form. So when you mix it in, it kind of curdles and forms little globules, because the frozen buttermilk makes little globules out of the butter. See? And that's what's going to create little pockets that are going to cause the biscuits to be flaky and rise pretty tall. So now we're going to combine this with the flour. Let me just get all this goodness in here. And again, that was 1 stick of butter plus 1 tablespoon for a full 9 tablespoons of butter melted. From that, I pulled out 1 tablespoon that I put in this little dish that I'm going to use to glaze the biscuits prior to baking. And this was a cup of buttermilk that we froze for 10 minutes. It has to be a minimum of 10 minutes. Not too long, but long enough for it to start to freeze. And this way it makes a very flaky biscuit and it rises pretty tall. So, if you don't like hockey puck biscuits, you can try this recipe because it will give you a very tall biscuit. I was surprised when I first made it, how tall it was. Alright, so now all the flour mixture is incorporated. And let me grab my flour. Actually, let me just do this because it's right here. I have a shaker of flour, but I didn't get that out. And thankfully, it's a different color canister than my baking soda canister, because that would not be good to add extra baking soda to the mix. Just tastes funny. So we're going to flour the work surface. And then this dough is a tad sticky, and I think it's because our weather is a tad sticky lately with all the rain we've been having. We live in a desert climate, and we've been having monsoon type of rains. Alright. It flooded one area so bad that the cement plates in the playground and the park bench area just lifted up and floated. That's pretty strong currents. So if you see the mighty Kern River on the news, that's in our general vicinity. So we're going to spread this out till it's about a ½ inch thick. Just going to pat it out with my hands. Don't want to get it too thin. And the key to cutting out biscuits is push it straight down and pull it straight up. You don't want to twist because that will seal the edge of the biscuit and that will keep it from rising properly. So your best bet is just to press the cutter in and then pull it back out. Work your way around the dough. Stamp out all the biscuits you can fit. And then carefully lift away the extra dough. And then you can put these on a parchment lined baking sheet. And this makes 8 large biscuits, but it will make up to 10 to 12 depending upon the size of the cutter that you use. So again, this dough is a little stickier than it normally is because of this damp weather we've been having. So, like I've said in other videos, that if you have really dry weather, you may need to add moisture to your baked goods, and if it's been really wet, you may need extra flour. Whichever it takes to get the dough to a good consistency. So, I'm going to pull this aside and then add a little bit more flour to the, what did I do with it? It's right in front of me. If it was a snake, it would have bit me. So add a little bit more flour to the cutting board. And then, roll out this, or pat out, I should say, this other batch of dough till we can get some more biscuits out of it. So I'm going to do that. I think we can get 3 out of this. Kind of like rolling and cutting sugar cookies at the holidays. Alright, this will make approximately a couple more biscuits. So let me just roll this out. And then the oven is already at 450 degrees. And they will bake for approximately 20 minutes. So I will make sure that they don't burn, because burned biscuits aren't good either. So, and then I'm just going to take this one big hunk of biscuit dough and make one giant biscuit. How does that sound? Mm-hmm. All right. So, gotta make the room on the pan for that one. So flip it around, move these over, and actually I changed my mind. I'm gonna make one biscuit because I don't think a big biscuit would fit on here. So, we'll just have an extra biscuit. So now we have got a total of 14 2.5-inch biscuits. So again, this is going to cook at 450 for about 20 minutes. And we'll come back to you when these are done and show you how tall our biscuits have risen. Alright, and these baked for actually about 10 minutes. The instructions at the outset said 20 minutes total bake time, but the total necessary bake time was 10 minutes at 450. And they didn't rise as tall as I had anticipated, but I think it's because I put the melted butter on them prior to baking rather than after, as I got that part of the recipe a little mixed up. But
they still come out pretty big.
Yeah. So this one you can see how well the layers separate. You can see all these little air pockets. That's the buttermilk and butter making the little pockets. So that's a good example of what they usually look like. And prior, they were honestly 2 inches tall. So I think putting the melted butter on afterward would make that difference.
Excuse me.
So, well, let me get a plate and we will show you what these look like on the inside. And again, they're really, really hot. So, you can see what a nice flaky biscuit looks like. Woo! So you can see on the inside that it's really flaky. So this way you get a nice flaky, tender crumb on your biscuit. And again, the thing that sets this recipe apart is the frozen buttermilk. Freeze it for 10 minutes, not just cold from the fridge, but for 10 minutes till it gets like a little skin on the top that's frozen. Then you combine it with your melted butter. And that's what makes these little globules to make flaky biscuits. So if you all like a flaky biscuit to go with your breakfast, like biscuits and gravy, or to go alongside your soup for dinner, this is a really good recipe. So thank you again for joining us. So please like and subscribe and share to your friends and come back again soon.
Thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen. To get more recipes like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded. Share it out to your friends, family, neighbors, and leave us a comment to let us know how this recipe worked for you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Again, thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen.